I'll turn the time over to Pat.
Okay, good morning. It's still 2 minutes before noon, so I can say that. We're going to talk today about driving safety. For a lot of you, this will be a review. I kind of feel like I'm preaching to the choir here. Got a lot of good drivers here. At Workers' Comp Fund, we typically have about, for just the companies and the organizations that we insure, about 20 fatalities a year. And this year, as of last Friday, we just had our 15th. It wasn't a driving accident, but about half of those 15 generally are driving accidents. And so this is a very relevant topic to those who drive, you know, on an hourly basis, those who drive a little bit. A lot of us drive as part of our job, and if we don't drive a lot as part of our job, we drive, you know, off the job a lot with our families. Statistics, how many, and this one I don't know, but how many drivers were killed on Utah highways in the last year, in 2014? Anybody know that number? Seems like it was 250, 260, something like that. And that number has kind of leveled off. In fact, in some years it even goes up. Nationally, in 2005, 43,300 fatalities. 2009, 33,000, so it's dropping even though we have more drivers out there. 2011 and 2012 is the last year that we have. It actually went up a little bit. That means that every 15 minutes someone is killed in a crash in the United States. And 1 out of every 2 people living today will be involved in a traffic accident where someone is seriously injured or killed sometime in their life. How many of you has that's probably already happened to some of you, but that's a pretty high number. Your chances are pretty much 50-50 that at some point in your life you'll be involved in a very serious traffic accident. 2013, 55,637 crashes, 1 every 9.5 minutes. So at the time we're doing our meeting here today, we will probably have 3 or 4 crashes that occur on Utah roadways. So does anybody pay attention to that sign that you drive under on I-15? It's in a couple places. This many out of the last so many days on Utah roadways without a fatality. The other day it was 2. What's the highest number you've ever seen there? 2. And the highest number you've seen? I've seen 5 there one time. But most of the time it's 3 or 4, and that's kind of sad. That means that, you know, 3 or 4 fatalities every week. 1 injury every 23 minutes. And 220 deaths. That was 2013. I think the number went up, as you pointed out, in 2014. And what is, of crashes, not necessarily fatalities, but of crashes, including major and minor crashes, what is the number 1 violation? The number 1 mistake? It's not speeding.
Distracted driving.
It's not distracted driving, but those are good.
Cell phone.
Distracting. Following too close.
Following too close. Following too close. 22% of the accidents are caused by that one, and you probably see that all the time. I know I do. I drive a lot. I try and be a good driver. You see people who will, sometimes they're tailgating you, sometimes it's the car in front of you, and it's like, where's your cushion? You know, where's your cushion if something goes wrong? Teen drivers were involved in 20% of those crashes in Utah. Inclement weather, another 18%. Failure to yield, 18%. And speed, 17%. Now when we talk fatalities, what do you think out of these is number 1? Speed. It is speed. About 42% of the accidents, the fatalities, are caused by speed. Failure to keep in the proper lane, unrestrained occupants. You know, now it's a primary offense to not have your seatbelt on. I still see that. I just got a flyer in the mail 2 days ago by a survey, a UDOT survey, that said usage of seatbelts in rural areas like Fox Elder County is lower than the state average and the national average. We're going to be doing a survey to kind of determine why and what can be done about that. And you'll be getting this survey in the mail within the next week. So I kind of found that interesting. In rural areas like Fox Elder County, people aren't wearing their seatbelts as much. Drunk driving and also failure to yield also accounted for part of those causes of death. 3 Ds of driving safety. Being a defensive driver. When you first hear that term, and a lot of times we call this course defensive driving, what do you think of when you think of a defensive driver? What does that mean? Watch out for the other guy. And it's almost like you anticipate that person is going to not make a complete stop in front of you. They're going to, run the light and give it the gas when it's yellow. That dog is going to run out in front of you. That's being a defensive driver. What does it mean to be decisive? If someone is passing you, or the truck in front of you, what does it mean to be decisive?
I know we ain't gonna pass.
Okay? What do you want that driver to do? If somebody is passing you, what do you want them to do? You want them to pass you taking 5 minutes? No, you want them to first put on their blinker, decide they're going to pass, check the blind spot, and then not take 2 minutes, 3 minutes to make the pass or to make that pass around that semi-truck that's in front of you. If they're going, half a mile an hour faster than that semi, they probably should slow down, make the decision to slow down until the coast is clear. But being a decisive driver means that you make the safe decision and then you do what's necessary. And I have a 17-year-old teenage driver right now, and indecisiveness is a big issue, coming up on the interstate. And we're going for a drive and you've got all these cars coming by. Should I go now? Should I go now? Well, you've got to decide. You've got to fit in. Either speed up if the cars are way behind and you need to get there, or if they're right there, you've got to slow down. Being decisive is a good driver. Being dependable. That means we follow the traffic rules. What is a defensive driver? Driving so as to prevent accidents in spite of the actions of others. Even if it's their fault, nobody wants to get in an accident. Drive safely in spite of the actions of others or in spite of adverse weather conditions. Expect the unexpected. Anticipate what could happen and be prepared for that. Adjust your driving as the weather and traffic conditions change. Being decisive. 75% of accidents are preventable and typically due to driver error. Key to accident prevention: make sound decisions. And then, once you've made that decision, okay, I'm going to pass, or I'm going to turn, act in time. Last minute decisions, last minute actions are not safe. What happens if somebody is driving down the interstate in front of you, and right at their exit, in fact, maybe even a little bit past the lane, they decide, hey, I need to make this turn. What do?
They make it.
They make it by slowing down abruptly, and you have to slow down, and they're a hazard. They're a hazard to others because they didn't act in time. Okay, what do you notice here? What decision are you going to have to make?
Go for it.
Okay, I'm either going to go for it or I'm going to stop. And both of those may be an okay decision. It kind of depends on the situation and when that turned yellow. What's the worst thing you can do?
Take a picture while you're driving through the intersection?
Yes. That was taken by the passenger. And I didn't take these, by the way. I didn't take these, by the way. I do not take pictures when I'm driving. What's worse than either speeding up and going through it usually, or stopping?
Hesitating.
Hesitating,
The guy that
okay?
slows down and then all of a sudden he says go for it.
Yes, so many years ago, I did that. I was not on that particular day, that particular moment, not a good driver, because I thought, oh, I can make it. No, I can't. And so I put on the brakes, and I ended up right out here in the intersection. And I noticed that one of the reasons that I put on the brakes is because I noticed a police officer 3 cars back in this lane right here. And I stopped, and I looked at him, and I checked my rearview mirror, and I thought, I'm gonna back up. And I backed up, and I looked, and he was looking at me, and he went like this. So I went like this, and I was glad he didn't give me a ticket. But, you know, being indecisive, I should have just either went on through or anticipated, you know what, I can safely stop before it turns red. That was an indecisive driver that time. Be dependable. Know the laws, obey the laws, develop good driving habits. What are good driving habits? Give me a couple. Good driving habits.
Speed limit.
Follow the speed limit. Give me another one.
Being decisive.
Being decisive.
12-second scan.
Not tailgating. 12-second what?
Scan.
Oh, okay. Scanning ahead. Be farsighted. Don't be nearsighted. Move your eyes continuously. Don't stare. Take in the whole picture. Maintain that space cushion. And we say drive alone. You don't want to be on that next driver's bumper, and you want to drive alone. Maintain that space cushion. Keep your focus. We're going to talk a little bit about distracted driving, and you see that all the time, not just with cell phones. Communicate. What are the different ways we can communicate? Communicate courteously.
Like the way.
All 5 fingers and not one. And you know, we can use our, that's a good point. Sometimes you go to a 4-way stop and you think that guy got there first, and you wait and you wait, and they wait, and then each car kind of inches forward. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You know, wave them on through. Sometimes a big semi-truck will do that. You know, they're like, I don't want to turn because I have to take a wide turn. Go ahead, car, and then I will turn. We can communicate. We shouldn't use the one-fingered communication, should we? Okay. What's another even better way to communicate than using our hand? Blinkers. Every time you go to do something, using your blinkers. And you see people who, I'm sure, who don't use their blinkers. Well, I was just changing lanes. If you change lanes, use your blinker. If you turn, use your blinker. And don't forget to turn it off. You know, that's always something that's kind of scary. If somebody turns on their blinker to pass, let's say you're going down the interstate, and then they go and make the pass, and then you're like, well, are they going to get out again? They're signaling left. Should I go by them because they're going slower than I am, or should I just, you know, and especially on a highway where there's, you know, not exits, but turning lanes. So communicate with your blinkers. When should we use the horn? Should the horn be used to punish?
Courtesy.
As a courtesy. It may be foggy, it may be not good driving conditions. You may have a person who's partially pulled over. One light tap, you know, hey, I'm coming by you. Hey, I'm coming by. Hey, don't come over because I'm in this lane. Or you see a car start to go in your lane and they forgot to check their blind spot. You know, yeah, then it's okay to use the horn. But we don't use the horn to punish people. Be farsighted. In the city, that might be a block ahead. In the country, you might be looking half a mile to a mile down the road. So being farsighted, let's turn them all up. Does anybody care if I do that? Okay, we can see it a lot better on the video. Okay, being farsighted, what do you see up ahead? What does a defensive driver see here?
White car in the wrong way.
Okay.
Green light.
So are you talking about this car right here?
Yep.
Yeah. So it looks like they're turning there, but it doesn't look like to me that they have a whole lot of space here. I mean, that car's right there, but they're turning, they're already across the line here. Maybe some congestion up here, the light's still green. What do you notice, if you can see it, right here? Looks like you got some road construction there. What do you notice here, being farsighted? Corners, cones, so maybe this lane here is going to end. And then, if you're looking out quite a ways, so if I'm going to pass here, what am I going to find? This truck's going to be out of the way, but right as you come around that corner, you're probably going to meet that truck because they're going quite slow. And so just anticipating those type of things. All right, what do you notice? Stop sign.
That's a good jump.
A good jump on your bike? Okay. What about this right here? Let's talk about pedestrian crossings. When does the pedestrian have the right of way? When should I stop? Oh, okay, but always, but how do we know if they're, gonna walk this way or gonna walk that way?
When they're in the crosswalk.
When they step in, or even if they're facing. If the crosswalk is right here, and I've got one here, if I'm going like this and looking, that car should stop. And yes?
What about the kid that walks down the middle of the intersection and stares you down as he walks across the main street?
Jaywalking. That's an excellent question.
Can you bun him?
No, but a door pop would probably.
Here's my answer to that, and I always wonder so feel free to jump in. I've wondered, if someone's in a designated crosswalk, that's easy, you stop for them. But if somebody is jaywalking, and I don't know, if I'm the one who stops, because I want to be a courteous driver, and it's 4 lanes plus the turning lane, is that more unsafe? Because what's going to happen if I stop, but other cars, this isn't a signal, are they going to hit him? And is he going to take courage from that and say, oh, they're all stopping because I stopped? Or do I slow down and go slowly by him and not, obviously if he jumps out in front of you, you're going to stop so as to avoid hitting him. But does anybody have a better answer for that? I mean, that's what I do. But particularly in the pedestrian crosswalks, you don't have to, that pedestrian doesn't have to take a step or wave you down and say, hey, I'm crossing. If they're facing it, that's their intention is to cross that. You should stop and give them time to get across. In Ogden, last week, I guess school started, and so there were, in a small stretch there by Ogden High, Weber State, they have several crosswalks there, and just in a mile stretch, there were 6 Ogden City police officers there, and I watched them pull a person over who, the crossing guard comes out, and he's got a sign, the car in the first lane stops, the car in the second lane, like, oh, well, I've got time, and they go right on by, and a police officer on a motorcycle pulls them over. I'm sure they said, well, I have time. But the minute that person goes to cross, all lanes should stop. Keep your eyes moving. Don't stare. Check the rear and side view mirrors. Check oncoming traffic and cross traffic. How often do you check your rear view mirrors? Every 3 to 4 seconds. Yeah. And this is probably, I see this, I'm sure you guys see this probably every day. When you're going down the highway, and when you do have your lights on, usually not the siren. I'll see an officer with their lights on, and somebody in that left lane doesn't see them. And they go for a long time, and the driver just not check the rear view mirror. And then all of a sudden you can tell when they, oh, I better hurry and pull over. You should check that rear view mirror every 3 to 4 seconds. Okay, what do you detect? What do you notice here? Lady. So, and she's not taking a step yet, but to me, her intentions are to cross. You need to stop for her. Yeah, she is off the curb, so all intentions are she's gonna cross that. And if I'm in this lane here, I should stop too. I'm not gonna race her and say, well, because sometimes what do people do at crosswalks? Do they always do this? Sometimes they run. And they have the right of way. Night driving. Do we have more accidents at night? The accident rate, even though there's fewer drivers, not maybe the total number of crashes, but the accident rate per mile driven is 4 times as high at night as it is during the day. Why do you suppose that is?
Can't see as good.
You can't see as good. Your visibility is limited. What's another reason?
Tired.
You're tired. And even if we work the night shift and so we're used to sleeping during the day, that circadian rhythm that we have in our internal clock, what does it tell us we're supposed to be doing at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. in the morning?
Sleeping?
Sleeping. Okay? Not driving. And so we can even be drowsy then late at night or even at evening and at dusk. That's kind of what our brain tells us. One other reason why accidents are more at night: more animals on the road. You know, a lot of animals, deer and big game animals, and even dogs and coyotes, and it seems like there's a lot more at night. They feed a lot of times during the night, and so you see more animals, and your visibility is limited. You want to be conspicuous. You want to make sure your lights are on and both lights are working. Be courteous, be cautious. The death rate at night is 4 times that of the daytime rate. Take in the whole picture: the cross streets, the alleyways, pedestrians, parallel parking, construction vehicles, animals. All right, let's say that you're this driver right here, and right now the light turns green. What you gonna do?
Go.
Gonna shoot the gap? What does a safe driver do?
You gotta clear the intersection.
But they shouldn't be out there. Doesn't matter. Okay? Doesn't matter. They, you know, they have got out there maybe before, you know, well, right now they're fine because your light's still red. But even if they don't, you know, you don't want to have an accident. Okay, let me see. Maintain that space cushion. Whenever possible, drive alone. Don't tailgate, don't ride in a crowd. Leave a space cushion to the front, rear, and side. Allow more space than one vehicle length for every 10 miles per hour. Maintain the cushion when stopped. Avoid staying in others' blind spots. Is that right there a good place to be? No. So what does a decisive driver do? Get around him, and then when you can safely pull in, pull in. Or if you've got 3 lanes, stay in that lane, but get around him. Don't hang out in the blind spot. Is that a good driver? Not a little too close? But they're stopped. Okay, doesn't matter. We don't want to, rear end them as soon as they take off. Space cushion rule. If it's a car, van, 2 seconds. Truck or bus, 3 seconds. Tractor trailer, 4 seconds. Add 1 second over 40 miles an hour. Add at least 1 second for slippery road conditions. And these are minimal time intervals. What do you see here? So this guy, and maybe he's just getting in here. It does look like maybe his blinkers going. Any cars following too close here? To me, if this is 65, 70, yeah, he looks too close here. This truck looks too close to the lane that, I mean, if this guy was just here, he looks too close. All right, distractions. What's the worst thing you've seen as far as a distracted driver?
Reading a book.
Reading a book, that's mine. I've seen people reading a book, you know, and doing this kind of thing. I've seen people shaving, putting on makeup, texting, yeah. There was a Virginia Tech study of distractions. They studied hundreds of vehicles. They tracked like 2-3 million miles. They found out that nearly 80% of all crashes and 65% of near crashes involve some form of driver distraction within 3 seconds. And that's not just texting, you know, or talking on a cell phone. It could have been, you know, looking down at the foot, you know, grabbing something, pushing the button on the radio, which a lot of us do. But something, 80% of the crashes involve something, some form of distraction within 3 seconds before the event. Reaching for an unmoving object, looking at an external object, reading, makeup, cell phone dialing, talking or listening on a handheld device. Do hands-free, and now I finally have a hands-free device and Bluetooth. Are those safe? Are they better? Are they better than a handheld device?
I don't know, I think it's about sixes.
You think it's
You're
about
still
six?
concentrating more on the conversation.
You are, and that's the problem. I think they're better. I think they're safer. But I would be hesitant to say, yeah, these are 100% safe. The best thing to do, even if you have Bluetooth, is just let it go to your voicemail. Okay, that's the best thing to do. And even if you have Bluetooth, you know, even if it's 1 or 2 buttons that you push, yeah, dial home, you know, dial whoever, that's a distraction. Yeah, it only takes a second, but sometimes we don't have an extra second before we need to slow down to avoid hitting the animal or hitting the car in front of us. Distracted driving, adjusting the radio, eating, passengers. Can passengers be distracting? Yeah. But can passengers, what's the difference between, why don't we see distracted driving, a lot of crashes with people who have someone else in the front seat versus talking to someone on the phone? What's different about that?
Got an extra set of eyes looking out.
You've got an extra set of eyes to help you, and that person who is the passenger there, they can sense the conditions. The person who's on the other phone that you're, you know, talking to grandma 3 states away, they don't know that there's heavy traffic. They don't know that the roads are icy. They can't help you out with the driving. All these things, we've seen those. Rubbernecking, what's that? Staring at something. Maybe it's a deer you see out there. Maybe it's some, you know, hey kids, look at that. You know, we need to not be distracted. So basically there's 3 things that go into our stopping time. If those cars, if an animal runs out on the highway, or if those cars have to stop, there's 3 things that go into that. Any diversions will play a part in that. So if I'm looking down at the ground, however long that diversion is, if it's half a second, then we have to add a half a second onto that. Reaction time. What is your reaction time from when you see that hazard, I need to stop, or I need to turn, or I need to swerve, from when you see that to when you act, when you start applying the brakes, when you take the wheel and start moving it? What is typical reaction time? A half to a second. Yeah, 3/4 of a second. And then your braking time. Okay, what does your braking time depend on? The surface of the road, the quality of the tires, and your type of vehicle. It obviously takes a tractor trailer a lot longer to brake than it does you in your sports car. Okay, so in this is just 30 miles an hour. If you have a diversion or a distraction of 1 second, reaction time of 3/4 of a second, and then it takes you 45 feet to stop when you apply the brakes, and that's not slamming on them. That's 122 feet. Okay, the faster you drive, the less time you have to react, and the more serious an accident is likely to be. Communicate to those other drivers with hand signals, turn signals. Be consistent. Headlights and brake lights. Do we ever communicate with our headlights? We do all the time with our brake lights, right? And so it's important that they're working. How do we communicate with our headlights?
Signaling.
Okay.
Oh,
Why would we want to flash somebody?
Get their attention, I don't know where.
Get their attention. Okay, what would be some of the things where we'd want to get their attention?
Pass a slower car.
Okay, to pass a slower car, I'm going to pass you, and it's at night, so I'm going to flash, or in the day, so I'm just going to give you the brake lights so that you'll know that I'm coming around.
Something in the road.
That's a good one, something in the road. So let's say that you're heading to Logan through Sardine Canyon, and you just come across, there's a whole herd of deer, you know, and you don't hit one, but they're here, and they're here. That oncoming car might be a good idea to flash them instead. I know I appreciate that as a driver. If I'm driving and I say, hey, I wonder why they're flashing me. It's either the Manaway police or there's an animal there. Oh, there's a herd of deer here. Thank you, driver. That's a good way to communicate. If the driver's got their brights on, and we want to let them know, you know, what should we do there? Turn our brights on until they turn theirs dim? No, that's a communication. That's okay. Just one real quickly. Hey, you've got your brights on? Oh, sorry. You know, I didn't know they were on. Or, hey, I'm pulling this load. That's as dim as I can get. So, but be courteous. The horn, we already talked about that. Use that sparingly. Eye contact, you know, take a look so that you know what they're doing. Our hearing can alert us to emergency vehicles, trains, or others communicating by horn. So here you've got a on this picture this car right here actually went around the barrier here, and 5 seconds later this came by. So didn't want to wait. Those barriers are there for a reason, and even if it's a slow moving train, you know, the other hazard with this is if it's a double track or a four tracks. You know, you may think, oh, well, I can beat this. Well, can you beat the other one? Sometimes they more than one train crossing at the same time. All right, what do you notice here?
4 tracks, no crossing.
Oh, okay.
No warning at all.
Yeah, that means I don't have to ever stop, right? Okay. So what do I use as my warning here? Now, this probably isn't a well-used track. It probably only once in a while. But what do I do? What am I supposed to do when I cross railroad tracks and there's no lights or no barrier that comes down? Yeah, isn't it? Aren't we supposed to treat that as a yield? Okay, we don't have to come to a complete stop, but unless it has a stop sign, and a lot of them do now. But we stop and we look both ways, you know, and then we continue on. And then what else do you notice in this picture? Notice anything? So I'm driving here, I've got right here, I'm through the train tracks. Anything else you notice being farsighted?
Yeah, another train down.
Another train, I'm gonna have to stop. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop. Train tracks they don't You don't hear about someone running into a train every day, but when they happen, they're almost always fatalities. So 3 years ago, maybe one of you got the call, but Riverside, that little, is it a UDOT station that's right there before Riverside Corner? So I went, my sister lives on that road, I went and to her house, and I'm coming back with my kids, and I see these lights out on the train track. And you know there where it swerves like that? So what a car did, it had 2 teenage drivers in it. This car, it was like a, what was it, a Chevy Aveo or something like that, this tiny car. They had a Geo Metro or something. Did you get the call? Okay, I'm the one who called. So went out there, and it was sitting on the tracks. And they had missed. I went out there and I said, "Are you guys okay?" And you know, I don't know if they told you this, but they were inside the car. And I said, "You know, are you guys okay?" And "Oh yeah, we're fine." I've called my dad and I said, "You can't leave your, don't be sitting in here. A train comes by here. I don't know the schedule, but it's not safe to be in here. Do you need some help? Do you need?" "Oh no, we're okay. I've called." And so they were sitting there. So I did call. I thought, you know what, this isn't safe. So I called it in. It sounds like you went out on it. I don't know. I think they just missed the turn. It kind of swerves, and they were right high centered on those tracks. I don't know how they got it off of there.
Drunk and pulled it off?
Did they? So Dad finally came? Okay. We have to be careful at railroad crossings. Feelings alert us to, feelings or our senses alert us to a loss of traction. Skidding, slippery roads, reduced acceleration or unstable steering, loss of brakes, or if we have a flat tire. Oh, one other thing that I wanted to say on our hearing. So we need our hearing to alert us to those emergency signals, horns, sirens, that type of thing. So what should we not do to override that? Yeah, we shouldn't have the radio blasting, and we should never drive with earbuds in our ears. Okay? Well, I like to listen to music. It's okay if I have them in just one ear. Well, certainly not both ears. We want to be able to hear. What do we do if the wheels go off the road? Don't panic. Don't brake suddenly. Slow down gradually. When it's safe, steer back onto the road. What do we do if we're driving and we see that deer runs right out? What do most teenage drivers do?
Swerve.
They swerve. And you know what I tell my kids? I say, don't swerve. You know, but do slow down. Brake, and it's okay, you know, I feel sorry for Bambi, but if you happen to hit that deer because you didn't swerve, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Because what happens when they swerve, most of the time, especially a young driver, and if it's an experienced driver, you know, I might try and get out of the way, but they will swerve, roll the car, go off the road. They may not hit the deer, but they make a worse accident. Seat belts. Seat belts reduce serious and fatal injuries by 60%. What's the percentage of Utahns that wear their seat belts now?
60?
Better. It's better. Last numbers I heard, it was above 80%. So, and hopefully it'll go, you know, now that we have a primary seatbelt law. About half of all traffic deaths and nearly 90% of all injuries occur within 25 miles of home. And this number here, this is about what we see with those crash fatalities at Workers' Comp Fund. About 50% of all auto crash injuries, oh, not this one, but they weren't wearing their seatbelts. About half of those. It's about 40-some percent. See the hazard, understand the defense, and act in time. Intersections. Expect the unexpected. Anticipate the unexpected. Look both ways. Don't be so focused that, well, the light is green. Doesn't matter. If we hit someone or if we're dead, it doesn't really matter who had the right of way or who was at fault. Yield the right of way. Position and signal. Stay in your lane. Okay, this light turns green right now. What are you gonna do?
Wait.
You're gonna wait a little while, and what might be on the other side of this bus? You don't know. You're gonna look both ways, even if it is green. Sometimes, and this looks like one way, but there's vegetation, trees, bushes that impede our vision. We need to slow down and anticipate when we're coming on an intersection. Okay, this truck, this van, was in the turning lane right here. Which lane should they go into? This one right here. They actually go into this one. What's wrong with doing what he did and going into this second lane right here?
And then maybe turn the other way, has that right to that inside, outside.
Yeah, so there might be somebody right here who thinks, oh, well, that guy's gonna take this lane. I can get in right there. They might have a crash. You always take the near turning lane. Okay, what do you notice here?
Semi pulling a trailer up.
Yep, what else?
Making a wide
Wide turn.
Yep, make it a wide turn. So there's a couple things here, and that is one of them. So what do sometimes, what's the other thing that you notice here? Lights are on. Okay, but even if the lights were on, what do sometimes drivers, maybe teenage drivers, in a small car, and if they come up here, what do they sometimes do?
Pull the inside to make the turn.
Hey, he must not, I learned that you're supposed to be in the right lane to make a right-hand turn. He's not in the right lane. I guess that means he's not turning. I'll just go there real quickly. Trucks need a wider berth in order to turn. And so sometimes they're gonna turn from what seems to you like isn't the turning lane. What do we do if the traffic lights are out?
Treat it like a four-way stop.
Yeah, that works pretty good if there's only, 4 lanes. How well does that work if there's 2 lanes in each direction? Seems like it deteriorates quickly. I know it's like people don't know when to go. Well, did I get here first? Well, this car's going. He's right next to me. I guess I can go now. But you treat it as a 4-way stop. The first one there gets to take the turn, gets to move. Collision with a vehicle ahead or behind. Being rear-ended, rear-ending, or backing. Okay? What happened there?
Police didn't stop in time.
No, the van backed into him. Right? No, the police didn't stop in time. Okay? Backing. Plan ahead, don't back if you don't have to. Brigham City, with their city vehicles, their rule is if you can back first or pull into it without backing, that's what they want them to do. And they've saved on property, on accidents and property damage that way. Do the circle check before you get in your car. Make sure there's nothing behind you. Back immediately, back slowly. Okay, like this van has pulled into, so they won't have to back, they can pull forward. Passing or being passed. Check the road, make sure it's safe to pass. Communicate. Be brisk, allow that space cushion, resume your speed. So what does it mean, check the road? What's the first thing I'm going to do? This car's way slower than me, I want to pass. Okay, I'm going to look up ahead, then what am I going to do?
Am I in a passing lane?
So let's say you're just on a two-lane highway, and it is legal to pass. It's not a double yellow line, or it's a dashed line. It's legal to pass both ways. What am I going to do next?
Blinker.
Okay, turn on the blinker, then,
Bomb it.
even before I bomb it, I got to do one thing. Check your blind spot. Check your blind spot. Then I'm going to make my pass very efficiently. And then am I going to pull right in front of that guy? No, I'm going to allow that space cushion and then resume speed. How many times have you been driving and there's a car that comes and passes you and then they get in front of you and then they slow down? It's like, I was going as fast as you were. Why did you do that? I don't know. We've all probably done that. We've experienced that, and we've probably all done that to other drivers before. Resume your speed. Okay? A slow truck, you're going much faster. Make your pass. Resume your speed. Head-on accidents, a straight road or a curve. Be farsighted. Okay. What do you not like about that? You're this driver right here. Okay. Okay. What should that driver? But they're being courteous, right? They want to give that family plenty of room.
Looks like they got a lift on that car. They barely move.
He's driving a Mustang, ain't he?
What should this driver have done?
Slow down until this car passes.
Slow down till you pass. Yeah, take an extra second and slow down. Yeah, I know that inconveniences the driver, but should they cross this double line here? Especially not if there's traffic coming right at you. Okay? What do you see here?
Cut in the corner.
So what's this driver gonna do? Let's say that you're back here. Would that make you nervous? What would you anticipate? What would you expect to happen? He's getting ready to turn. Hopefully he won't turn in front of me, but he might be making a U-turn illegally. Fatigue. Sleep deprived or fatigued, suffering from sleep loss, driving long distances without breaks, driving through the night, mid-afternoon, or when you would normally be asleep. Or maybe it's your medications. You know, it doesn't have to be a heavy-duty narcotic to cause you sleepiness. Some asthma or type of medications, Claritin allergy medications, they make you sleepy. And so you need to be careful of that. What causes most fatigue-related accidents? Is it the driver going completely asleep, running off the road and waking up in the hospital? That does happen sometimes, but more often than that, it's the loss of your reflex times and your reaction times. So how many of you have ever been, including when you were a brand new driver, you've ever been driving a long distance? Maybe you're going to see grandma for Thanksgiving and you drive through the night or whatever. You're driving somewhere and you're just kind of a zombie. And you get there and you're like, wow, we're here already? I don't remember the bridge. I don't remember the this and that, but I must have passed them because I'm here. That's unsafe driving because, you know, yes, you stayed awake, kind of, while you were there. You didn't fall asleep, you know, and start snoring, but your reaction time was greatly reduced. And so what should we do if we're fatigued? Don't chance it. Don't chance it. We all probably have some tricks to keep us awake. You know, we take an energy drink, we drink a cup of coffee, we get out and run around, we roll down the windows, eat sunflower seeds, whatever. But the smartest thing to do is to pull over and take a little nap or let someone else drive. Just in summary, be defensive. Be that defensive driver. Be decisive. Make good decisions. Make those decisions in time. Be dependable. Follow the traffic laws. Be consistent. All right? That's everything that I have. Does anybody have any questions or comments or good stories you would like to add? Okay. Well then, thanks for listening, and I guess we're done.
Remember to sign the roll if you get excited.
Yeah.